I nurtured her from maternal death to college. Yet here she stood, in the middle of a crowded courtroom, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "He is my mother's killer," she said, pointing at me. The entire room gasped. The judge banged his gavel, ordering silence, but nothing could drown out the venom in her words. She wasn't just accusing me. She was condemning me. The girl I had held in my arms when she was minutes away from death, the girl I had raised as my own, fed, clothed, and prayed for, now looked at me with hate in her eyes. Her lips trembled with rage, her body shook with pain, but her words carried the sharpness of a sword. He doesn't deserve to walk free. And in that moment, as everyone turned their eyes toward me, I felt the world crash. My knees weakened, my chest tightened, and I wanted to scream, but I couldn't, because how could I fight her when she was the very reason I survived my darkest years? How could I defend myself against a child who was both my greatest gift and now my greatest curse? The courtroom was buzzing, whispers flying in every direction. I could see the journalists scribbling down notes. I could see neighbors, old friends, even church members, shaking their heads as if they always suspected I had something dark buried inside me. I had spent years building this girl's future, working 3 jobs, sacrificing every dream of my own so she could reach hers. And now, here she was, dressed in a lawyer's robe, standing as though she was the executioner sent to destroy me. But the truth was far darker, far heavier than even she knew, because on the night she was born, I made a choice that saved her life but destroyed mine. And it was that choice, hidden for years, buried in silence, that brought me to this courtroom, to this humiliation, to this betrayal. But before you judge me, before you take her side or mine, let me take you back to the very beginning, back to the night that started it all. My name is Daniel Walker. I was 26 when it happened. I had no wife, no children, just a quiet life in Ohio working as a mechanic in a small shop on the edge of town. My world was small, but safe. That safety ended the night Emma, the woman I loved, died in childbirth. Emma was sunshine. She was laughter in human form. We grew up together, neighbors since grade school. I loved her from afar for years, until finally, in college, I told her. She laughed, that kind of laugh that makes your heart skip. And she told me she loved me too. We were inseparable, but our story didn't end in marriage like everyone thought it would. No, fate was crueler than that. Emma got pregnant with another man's child, a man who ran away the moment he heard the news. She came to me broken, ashamed, scared, and I stayed. The night she went into labor, I drove her to the hospital myself. The storm outside was merciless. Thunder so loud it shook the windows, rain hammering the roof like 1,000 tiny fists. She squeezed my hand until my bones ached, screaming through the contractions, and I swore to her everything would be fine. But it wasn't. The doctors rushed in and out, their faces tight with panic. I heard whispers of blood loss, complications, failing organs. I tried to hold her hand, but they pushed me back. The machines beeped, alarms blared, and then silence. Emma was gone. Just like that, the light of my life vanished in a white hospital room. I collapsed to the floor, screaming, begging God, cursing the world, shaking until I thought my chest would burst. My hands were trembling when a nurse touched my shoulder and whispered, "The baby, she's alive, but she won't make it without someone to fight for her." That was the first time I laid eyes on her. Tiny, fragile, wrapped in wires and tubes, her breasts so shallow they sounded like whispers from the grave. Emma's daughter, the child of the man who abandoned her. And right there, through my tears, I made a vow. I would raise her. I would fight for her. I would give her the life Emma never had the chance to see. I named her Lily. From that moment on, Lily was my reason to wake up, my reason to work, my reason to breathe. I fed her with bottles. I didn't even know how to prepare at first. I learned to braid her hair, to sew buttons back on dresses, to calm her cries in the middle of the night. I became both father and mother, protector and provider. I built my life around her, stone by stone, sacrifice by sacrifice. When she got into law school, the best one in the state, I thought my heart would explode from pride. I thought Emma would be smiling from heaven, proud of us both. But life is cruel, because the very thing I feared, the secret I had buried deep, the truth I hoped would never surface, came back with a vengeance. And now, years later, in that courtroom, Lily, the little girl I raised as my own, looked at me with hatred in her eyes, pointing her finger as though it was a gun. And her words tore me open. He killed my mother. He doesn't deserve to live free. The room fell silent. The judge stared at me. My heart pounded like a drum of war. And in that silence, one question thundered louder than all the rest. Would my own daughter be the one to destroy me? The silence in the courtroom was unbearable. You could hear the shuffle of a single shoe against a marble floor. Lily's voice still echoed in my ears, her accusation stabbing deeper than any blade. "Mr. Walker," the judge's voice thundered, "do you have anything to say in response to this claim?" My lips parted, but no words came. What could I possibly say? That I loved her mother? That I sacrificed everything to keep her alive? That the story she thought she knew was twisted by shadows only I carried? I turned my eyes to Lily, searching for even a flicker of the little girl I had raised. The one who used to fall asleep on my chest while I hummed lullabies. The one who'd cry into my arms after a bad dream, begging me never to leave her. But she wasn't that girl anymore. What I saw standing in that courtroom was a woman with rage, pain, and fire burning in her eyes. And that fire was aimed at me. I didn't kill your mother," I whispered, though the words sounded weak even to my own ears. Lily's lawyer slammed his fist on the table. "Your Honor, the defendant has hidden this truth for over 20 years. It's time for justice." Justice. That word made me laugh bitterly inside. Was justice raising a child that wasn't mine? Was justice carrying debts, bruised hands, and sleepless nights so she could shine? Was justice giving her my soul, only to have her spit it back in my face? But I couldn't laugh. Not here, not in front of her. The judge narrowed his eyes. "This court will recess until tomorrow morning. Mr. Walker, I strongly advise you to find legal counsel." The gavel slammed, and with it, my world cracked a little more. The courtroom erupted in whispers. People leaned into each other, gasping at the scandal of it all. I felt their stares like arrows piercing my back as I stumbled out. My legs shook. My hands were clammy. My heart felt like it was caged and someone was tightening the bars. When I stepped outside, the cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shoved microphones into my face. "Did you kill Emma Parker, Mr. Walker? Is it true you raised her daughter to cover your crime? Was this all part of a twisted plan?" I shoved through them, my breaths coming fast, the world spinning. I wanted to scream, to shake them, to tell them everything. But how do you tell the world a story so dark that even you can barely carry it? I reached my old truck and slumped into the seat, gripping the wheel until my knuckles turned white. Memories poured in like a flood. Emma's smile, her last breath, Lily's first cry, the promises I made, the nights I spent holding her when fevers nearly burned her away. And then, the one memory I had buried, the one no one knew, the one that haunted me every time I closed my eyes. Because Emma didn't just die that night. She begged me with her last breath to make a choice. And I did, a choice that saved Lily, but damned me forever. I closed my eyes, hearing Emma's voice again, trembling and weak, whispering words that broke me. Save her, even if it cost me. I clenched the steering wheel so tight, I thought it would snap. How could I tell Lily this? How could I explain that her mother made me promise to let her go if it meant saving the child? But secrets rot, and mine was rotting faster than ever. As I sat in that truck, drowning in my thoughts, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and froze. It was a text from a blocked number. "You thought the truth would stay buried? She knows. And soon, the world will know everything." My stomach dropped. My throat went dry. Someone else was pulling strings. Someone else knew. But who? I scanned the crowd still swarming outside the courthouse, their faces blending together in the chaos. And then, just for a second, I thought I saw him. A man I hadn't seen in 20 years. The man who vanished the moment Emma told him she was pregnant. Lily's biological father. My heart stopped. It couldn't be him. It shouldn't be him. But that face, older, sharper, with eyes cold as stone, I would never forget it. And as quickly as I saw him, he vanished back into crowd. I slammed my fist against the dashboard, fury boiling inside me. He was alive. He was back. And if he was behind this, then I wasn't just fighting for my freedom. I was fighting against a ghost from the past who wanted me destroyed. The next morning, I returned to the courthouse, my body weak from a night without sleep. As I walked through the double doors, Lily stood there, waiting. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She only stared at me with a mixture of pain and disgust. I opened my mouth, desperate to explain, to tell her everything, but before I could, 2 officers walked up behind me. Daniel Walker. One of them said firmly, "You're under arrest for the murder of Emma Parker." The cold metal of the handcuffs snapped around my wrists. Gasps echoed through the hallway. And as they dragged me away, I locked eyes with Lily one last time. Her lips moved, whispering words I'll never forget. "I hate you." And just like that, the world I sacrificed everything for crumbled into ashes. The sound of the jail cell slamming shut was like a coffin lid sealing over me. The metallic clang rang in my ears long after the guard walked away, leaving me in the dim, suffocating silence of my new reality. I sat on the hard bench, my wrists sore from the handcuffs, my chest heavy with the words I couldn't say. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be the villain in this story. But here I was, branded a killer, locked away like an animal. All I could see was Lily's face, the look in her eyes when she whispered, "I hate you." That hurt more than the arrest, more than the humiliation, more than the cold of the cell. I had given my entire life to her, and still it wasn't enough. But as the hours crawled by, something inside me shifted. Rage. Not at her, but at the man I thought I saw outside the courthouse. The man who abandoned Emma when she needed him most. The man who disappeared into the shadows and left me to pick up the broken pieces. If he was truly back, if he was the one poisoning Lily's mind against me, then this was more than betrayal. This was war. The cell door rattled open. "Walker," a guard barked, "You got a visitor." My stomach tightened. Could it be Lily? Had she come to listen, maybe to give me one more chance to explain? I stood, heart pounding, and followed the guard into the visitation room. And then I froze. It wasn't Lily. It was him. Older now, his hair streaked with gray, his jaw lined with years of hard living. But those eyes, I would never forget those eyes. Cold, calculating. The eyes of a man who runs when things get hard. "Hello, Daniel," he said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. "It's been a long time." I clenched my fists. "What the hell are you doing here?" He leaned back in his chair, smirking, just watching the pieces fall into place. "You did a wonderful job raising my daughter. Law school, top of her class, standing in court like a queen. You must be so proud." My jaw tightened. "She's not your daughter. You gave up that right the night you abandoned Emma." He chuckled darkly. "Oh, Daniel, you really think you can rewrite the story? No, my friend. Blood doesn't lie. She knows the truth now. She knows you're the reason her mother died." I slammed my hand against the table. "That's not true. Emma made me promise." I stopped myself. My chest heaved. His smirk widened. "Yes, I know exactly what she made you promise. And you kept it. You let her die." My heart twisted. His words were like poison, but they carried a horrible truth. Emma had begged me to save Lily, even if it meant letting her go. And I did. I chose Lily over Emma. I live with that choice every day. But to hear it thrown back at me like a weapon, it was unbearable. "She'll never forgive you," he whispered, leaning closer. "And why should she? You're the villain of this story, Daniel. Not me." I shook my head, trembling with fury. "What do you want from me?" His smirk faded, replaced by something colder, sharper. "I want you destroyed. I want to hate you so deeply that even your ghost won't find peace. You took what was mine, Emma, my child, the life I should have had. Now I'm taking it back. And you You'll rot in here while I watch her shine." The guard banged on the glass. "Time's up." He stood, straightening his jacket, and leaned down close to the phone one last time. "Enjoy the trial, Daniel. It's going to be the end of you." And just like that, he was gone. I sat there, shaking, my thoughts spinning like a hurricane. He was the real monster. He abandoned Emma. He abandoned Lily. And now, after 20 years, he wanted to play the hero by making me the villain. But what terrified me most was that he had the one weapon I couldn't fight against, Lily's trust. When I was escorted back to my cell, I sank onto the bench, burying my face in my hands. How could I save myself if the only person who mattered in this world already believed I was guilty? That night, sleep refused to come. I stared at the cracks in the ceiling until dawn, listening to the distant sounds of other prisoners shouting, cursing, laughing like hyenas in the dark. My body was in a cage, but my soul was in a deeper prison, the prison of Lily's hatred. The next morning, they dragged me into the courtroom again. The air was thick with tension. Lily sat at the prosecution's table, her back straight, her chin raised high, her eyes refusing to even glance at me. The judge entered. The bailiff called for order, and then the trial began. The prosecutor rose, his voice booming through the chamber. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will hear how Daniel Walker, the man sitting before you, made a choice 20 years ago, a choice that left Emma Parker dead and her child motherless. He raised that child not out of love, but out of guilt. And now, the truth has finally come to light." Whispers rippled through the room. I gripped the edge of the table, fighting the urge to scream. But then something happened, something that froze the blood in my veins. The doors to the courtroom swung open, and there he was, Lily's biological father, striding in as though he owned the place. And when Lily turned, her face lit up, not with anger, not with suspicion, but with something I had prayed I'd never see. Recognition. She knew him. She trusted him. And in that moment, I realized the battle wasn't just about the truth anymore. It was about her heart. And I was losing. The moment Lily's eyes lit up at the sight of him, my world collapsed a second time. She stood, her voice trembling but hopeful. "Dad." The courtroom gasped. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras clicked like a storm of lightning, and I felt the ground tilt beneath me. "Dad." The word ripped into me like a knife. For 20 years, that had been my name. She used to run into my arms shouting it. She used to curl up on my lap and whisper it like a secret. And now, with one glance, one smile, she gave that name to the man who abandoned her before she even drew her first breath. "Yes, sweetheart," he said smoothly, his voice carrying to the chamber like silk wrapped around a blade. "It's me. I'm here now." The judge banged his gavel, demanding order, but chaos buzzed through the room like electricity. Jurors whispered to each other. The prosecutor grinned, and the spectators craned their necks to see the man who had suddenly turned the case into a twisted family drama. Lily's lawyer pounced. "Your Honor, this is crucial testimony. This man is Emma Parker's partner at the time of her pregnancy. He has been gone for 20 years, and now he steps forward to confirm what we've already stated, that Daniel Walker is not the victim, but the villain in this story." The judge hesitated, then nodded. "Proceed." And I watched, powerless, as the man I hated most in this world took the stand. He painted a picture so perfect, so poisonous, it almost sounded believable. He told the jury he had been young, foolish, and scared, but that he had loved Emma. He claimed he wanted to stay, but that I had forced him away, threatening him, driving him out of town. He said I had manipulated Emma, convincing her I was her only hope. Every lie he spoke dug another nail into my coffin. And the jury, God help me, they were eating it up. And Lily was crying. Tears rolled down her face as she listened, her hands trembling. She believed him. She believed him. When it was my turn to speak, my lawyer rose. "Mr. Walker, is there anything you'd like to say?" I stood, gripping the table so hard my knuckles turned white. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. "I never drove him away. He left on his own. He abandoned Emma. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who held her hand as she fought to bring Lily into this world. I was the one who buried her when she didn't make it. My voice broke. I was the one who raised Lily when no one else would. The room was silent. I looked at Lily, begging her with my eyes to see the truth. But she didn't look at me. She kept her gaze locked on him, her father. That night, back in my cell, I felt something inside me breaking. For the first time in 20 years, I wondered if all the sacrifices had been in vain. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe truth wasn't strong enough. But then, something happened that changed everything. It was near midnight when a guard came to my cell, whispering, "Walker, you got mail." He slid an envelope through the bars. My hands shook as I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, no signature. Just one sentence. "If you want the truth to come out, meet me in the storage room tomorrow, during recess." I froze. My heart raced. Was this a trap, or was it my only chance? The next morning, during recess, I convinced a guard to let me use the storage room to clean up. My body trembled with every step. I pushed open the door and slipped inside. And there, in the shadows, stood a woman, her face pale, her hands shaking, her eyes darting around as though terrified someone had followed her. When she spoke, her voice was a whisper, but the words struck like thunder. I was there the night Emma died, and I know the truth. My blood ran cold. Who are you?" I stammered. Her eyes filled with tears. "I was the nurse, the one who carried Lily to you that night. And I know Emma didn't just die, she was helped." The room spun. My chest seized. "What do you mean, helped?" She swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "I mean, your hands weren't the only ones in that room. Someone else was there. Someone who wanted Emma gone." And before I could demand more, the door burst open. 2 men in suits stormed in, their faces hard, their movements sharp. One grabbed the nurse by the arm. The other shoved me back against the wall. "Not a word," one of them hissed. And in seconds, she was gone, dragged away, her cries echoing down the hall. I stood there breathless, the truth dangling just out of reach. Who were those men? Why did they take her? And what secret was so dark that someone was willing to silence her before she could speak it? As the guard shoved me back toward the courtroom, one thing became clear. This wasn't just about me or Emma, or even Lily anymore. This was bigger, much bigger. I couldn't shake her words. Emma didn't just die, she was helped. Those syllables repeated in my mind like a curse. A nurse, an eyewitness, someone who carried Lily into my arms that night. And now she was gone, silenced, dragged away before she could finish. Back in the courtroom, I sat at the defense table, staring blankly as the lawyers argued, their voices blending into static. My thoughts were far from the trial. I wasn't just fighting for freedom anymore. I was fighting for the truth. A truth someone desperately wanted buried. Lily glanced at me once. Her eyes were red from crying, but they held no softness, no love. Just confusion, and something else I couldn't name. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her what I just heard, but if I did, who would believe me? The prosecutor hammered his case, building his mountain of lies with each witness. Daniel Walker let Emma Parker bleed out, knowing she could have been saved. He chose to sacrifice her. He raised her child not out of love, but as a cover for his guilt. Every word was a dagger. And Lily, she nodded along. My Lily. I clenched my fists under the table. If I couldn't break this chain of lies soon, the jury would bury me alive. During the lunch break, my lawyer, a tired old man named Harris, leaned toward me. "Daniel, this isn't looking good. They've got the jury in their pocket. Unless we find a miracle witness, you're sunk." I wanted to laugh. A miracle witness? She had just been dragged away screaming. That night in my cell, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My body shook with rage and helplessness. And then, as the moonlight spilled to bars, I whispered to myself, if they think I'll die with this lie, they don't know me. The next morning, something unexpected happened. As court resumed, Lily's biological father took the stand again, smug and polished in a crisp suit. He was too prepared, too clean. His words rolled off his tongue like poison honey. "Emma begged me to stay," he told the jury, pretending to choke on tears. "But Daniel threatened me. He told me if I didn't leave town, he'd ruin me. And then he let her die." The courtroom gasped. I couldn't hold it in any more. I slammed my hands on the table. "Liar!" My voice cracked like thunder. "You abandoned her because you were a coward. You never loved her. You left her to die. And now you're twisting the knife in her memory." The judge's gavel pounded. "Mr. Walker, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt." But it was too late. The words were out. My rage had spilled into the open. The jury stared at me with suspicion. Lily lowered her head, her hands trembling in her lap. I felt the weight of loss crushing me. Not just the trial, not just freedom, but Lily. She was slipping through my fingers, pulled deeper into the arms of the man who never wanted her until now. But then fate shifted again. Just as the prosecutor prepared to close, the courtroom doors banged open. A woman stumbled inside, her hair messy, her clothes torn, her face bruised. It was a nurse. Gasps filled the chamber. The judge demanded order. The bailiff rushed to steady her, but she raised a shaking hand. I have to speak," she whispered. "I was there the night Emma Parker died." The judge leaned forward, eyes wide. "Identify yourself." "My name is Rachel Cole. I was a nurse on duty, and I saw everything." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. My heart hammered against my ribs, my breath shallow. Rachel looked at me, then at Lily. Tears streaked down her cheeks. "Emma didn't die from complications alone. Someone tampered with her for. Someone who wanted her gone." The entire room erupted. The judge slammed his gavel. "Order, order." Rachel's voice cracked as she pointed a trembling finger straight at Lily's biological father. It was him. I saw him. He snuck into the room. He touched the floor. Emma saw him, and she begged him to stop. The color drained from his face. For the first time, his confident mask cracked. Lily's eyes widened, her lips trembling. "Dad? Is she lying?" He didn't answer. The silence was louder than any denial. And then chaos exploded. Reporters shouted. The jury gasped. The judge demanded order. Lily stood, frozen, tears streaming down her face as her world shattered. And me? For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the tiniest spark of hope. But hope is dangerous. Because just as Rachel tried to continue, a loud crack echoed through the room. A gunshot. Screams filled the courthouse. Jurors ducked. The judge hit the floor. And Rachel, the one person who would clear my name, collapsed to the ground, blood blooming across her chest. The gunshot still rang in my ears as the courtroom erupted into chaos. Rachel lay sprawled on the floor, her blood pooling fast, her hand reaching weakly toward me, as though begging me not to let her truth die with her. "Call an ambulance!" the judge roared, ducking beneath the bench. Bailiffs wrestled with the panicked crowd. Reporters dropped their cameras, and Lily, my Lily, stood frozen, staring at the red spreading across Rachel's blouse, her tears blurring her vision. The shooter had vanished in the madness, a single shadow slipping through the chaos. But I knew, deep in my bones, I knew who had ordered it. Lily's father. He sat perfectly still, too calm, too quiet in the storm. His eyes met mine across the room, and in them I saw it. Satisfaction. He had silenced her. Bailiffs dragged me toward the holding cell for safety, but I fought, wrenching against their grip. No, she told the truth. He killed Emma. He killed her. But my words were swallowed in the frenzy. Hours later, back in my cell, my body shook with fury. Rachel's blood haunted me. She had tried to save me, to save the truth, and for that she had been silenced. By nightfall, the news was everywhere. Courtroom shooting leaves witness critical. They didn't even use her name. Just witness. Disposable. Erased just like Emma. I pressed my palms against the cold wall and swore to myself, I wouldn't let Emma's story end this way. I wouldn't let Lily live a lie, chained to the devil who abandoned her. The next morning, the trial resumed under tight security. Metal detectors, armed guards nervous whispers. Rachel was alive, but barely. In a hospital, fighting for her life. The prosecution tried to move forward as though nothing had happened, but the jury was shaken. The shooting had cracked the illusion. Doubt hung in the air. And then came the moment that nearly destroyed me. The prosecutor called Lily to the stand. My breath caught. She walked slowly, her steps heavy, her face pale. She sat down, her hands trembling, her eyes darting between me and her father. "Lily," the prosecutor said gently, "you've heard the testimony. You've seen the evidence. Tell the jury what you believe." Silence. You could hear the hum of the lights, the creak of a chair, the heartbeat in my chest. Finally, her lips parted. Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "I believe my father." The words slammed into me like a sledgehammer. My knees buckled. She believed him. After everything. After Rachel's testimony. After the shooting. After all my years of sacrifice. She chose him. The jury nodded. Some sighing, some whispering. The prosecutor smiled. The gavel banged for order. And in that moment, my world ended. Or so I thought. Because as Lily stepped down, she paused. Her hands clenched at her sides, her jaw trembling. And then she turned, not to the prosecutor, not to the jury, but to her father. "Tell me it isn't true," she whispered. The room stilled. His jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. "Don't be foolish, Lily." She was lying. But his eyes betrayed him. And Lily saw it. Her face twisted, her breath hitched, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "You did it. You killed my mom." The courtroom exploded. Gasps. Shouts. The jury leaned forward. The judge pounded his gavel. The reporters scribbled with frantic hands. Her father shot to his feet, his face red with fury. She's confused. She doesn't know what she's saying. But it was too late. The bailiffs swarmed him. The jury stared in horror. The mask had cracked. And Lily, my Lily, looked at me for the first time in months. Really looked at me. Her lips trembled as she whispered through her tears. "I'm sorry." The trial shifted in that single moment. Rachel survived long enough to give her testimony in full from her hospital bed. The jury deliberated for hours, but when they returned, the verdict was clear. Not guilty. The gavel fell and I was free. But freedom didn't taste like I thought it would. Because as I walked out of that courthouse, the reporters shouting, the cameras flashing, Lily stood at the steps waiting. Her eyes were swollen, her shoulders hunched, her face broken. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. For a moment, I almost collapsed from relief. She still called me Dad. But then she shook her head. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for letting Mom go, for making that choice. But I know now you're not the monster he said you were." Her words were both a gift and a knife. Forgiveness dangled in the air, close but not mine. I wanted to hold her, to tell her Emma had died with her name on her lips, begging me to save her. But the truth was a double-edged sword. It saved me, but it left scars on her heart that may never heal. And as she walked away, I realized something chilling. Yes, I was free, but I hadn't won. Not really, because revenge leaves nothing whole. Not love, not trust, not family. And though her father was dragged away in chains, though Emma's truth was finally known, the final wound would never close. Because the daughter I raised, the daughter I sacrificed everything for, would always carry a shadow inside her, a shadow with my face.